Hi there, my name is Doug. This is Champ. So hi Champ, welcome to rainy Jacksonville, Florida. I've decided to test the waters of YouTube and make a few videos about music. I love the vinyl and music community here and thought I'd jump in as a hobby and give myself a mental health outlet. For this inaugural episode, I thought I'd give in to my first desire for creating a channel, and that is to simply relate my thoughts and love for what I've been listening to recently, a listening journal. I've picked two recordings from the re-releases of Atlantic Records for their 75th anniversary. Blues and Roots by Charles Mingus and John Prine's first self-titled LP, John Prine. I hope you enjoy my humble contribution. Welcome to Doug's Music Fun Channel. Yeah, fun! Atlantic Records was founded in 1947 by Ahmet Ertegun and Herb Abramson. Their first recordings were released in 1948, marking 2023 as their 75th anniversary of bringing an amazing panorama of artists to the world at large. Both Atlantic and Acoustic Sounds are rolling out re-releases of some of these recordings. Acoustic Sounds is releasing double LP 45 RPM audiophile quality editions, whereas Atlantic is releasing the regular 33 RPM versions, most of them on clear vinyl. I currently have one of each. Charles Mingus's Blues and Roots on in the Atlantic Records, or I'm sorry, the Acoustic Sounds 45 RPM version, double LP, with the gatefold jacket and liner notes from Mr. Mingus himself on the back. Two black vinyl. And then I have the John Prine as an Atlantic re-release. There's the cover. This is his 1971 debut. These liner notes on the back are by Chris Christopherson. And as I mentioned, these are on clear vinyl, which is pretty cool. I think this is the only clear vinyl LP I have. So even though I was in jazz band in high school, I never developed much of an interest in recorded jazz until I moved to New York City in the early 90s. I don't know what it was about moving to New York. I thought I maybe should get urbane and hip and bone up on my jazz. So I bought a few CDs in anticipation, and one of these first CDs was Mingus's Blues and Roots. I didn't know much about Charles Mingus except that he played bass, was something of a character, and made avant-garde jazz. It was a blind listen, but the very first track, Wednesday Night Prayer Meeting, caught me. It's a song with gospel roots combined with a frenetic group improvisation dynamic. It grooves very, very hard and wails and moans with all the fervor of a gospel choir. The title is certainly apt and well chosen. Mingus had to say this in the liner notes I'd like to read you about this record. This record is unusual. It presents only one part of my musical world, the blues. A year ago, Nasuhi Ertegun suggested that I record an entire blues album in the style of Haitian fight song, because some people, particularly critics, were saying I didn't swing enough. He wanted to give them a barrage of soul music, churchy, blues, swinging, earthy. I thought it over. I was born swinging and clapped my hands in church as a little boy, but I've grown up and I like to do things other than just swing. But blues can do more than just swing, so I agreed. I also I found this quote from Mingus about the group improvisational dynamic, and we'll cut to that now.
What you say to each other on your instruments when you do that dialogue thing, when you're playing back and forth to each other. You're talking to each other on your instruments?
Fuck you, you dirty motherfucker, you son of a bitch. Sometimes I love you truly. You know.
Moanin' is another personal highlight for me. Starts with a hard-hitting riff from Pepper Adams' baritone sax, followed shortly by the harmonizing trombones of Jimmy Knepper and Willie Dennis playing a wonderful counter melody. It's wonderful. Blues and Roots was recorded on February 4th, 1959 at Atlantic Studios in New York City. The lineup is as follows. Charles Mingus on bass, of course, Jackie McLean and John Handy on alto saxes, Booker Irvin on tenor sax, Pepper Adams on baritone sax, Jimmy Knepper and Willie Dennis on trombones, Horace Parlin or Mal Waldron on piano, and Danny Richmond on drums. So I think to close this record out and when I think about it, I'd like to relate what the great jazz journalist Nat Hentoff wrote about it. He says, as this album powerfully affirms, Mingus's music will remain alive so long as there is life in the world. It's a vibrant, affirming record. It's filled with some madness, but joy at the same time. I love it more and more every time I listen to it. Switching gears quite a bit musically, but no less affirming and brilliant, is John Prine's record. I first learned of John Prine attending classes at the Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago. Our class was taught one song on this record, Paradise, and I sought out the recording. I learned later that Prine was actually an alumnus of the Old Town School. The Old Town School posted a picture on their Twitter account of his registration card. I think it's from 1964. I'd like to read an excerpt from Chris Christopherson's liner notes for John Prine. Steve Goodman, who was a friend with John, had opened up for Chris on a tour and persuaded me to go see Prine sing at a club after their last show in Chicago during a tour. This is what excuse me, Chris had to say about seeing him after hours at that club. He sang about a dozen songs and had to do a dozen more before it was over. Unlike anything I'd heard before. Sam Stone, Donald and Lydia, the one about the old folks. 24 years old and writes like he's 220. I don't know where he comes from, but I've got a good idea where he's going. We went away believers, reminded how goddamn good it feels to be turned on by a real creative imagination. Signed, Chris Christopherson. P.S. Thanks to the people at Atlantic for making good things happen fast to someone who deserves it. I can't do Prine's lyrics justice in the time we have, but I would like to comment on some of them. First, with the opening track, Illegal Smile, which I, and probably most, thought it was about smoking pot. However, Prine has, quote, confessed that it's not about smoking pot. He says, I have to confess the song was not about smoking dope. It was more about how, ever since I was a child, I had this view of the world where I can find myself smiling at stuff nobody else was smiling at. But it was such a good anthem for dope smokers that I didn't want to stop every time I played it and make a disclaimer. John Lennon claimed that Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds wasn't about LSD. I have to say to both Mr. Prine and Mr. Lennon, I'm not sure I'm buying it. I'll probably continue to think of those songs as good anthems for dope smokers, but I'll take your word for it. It doesn't matter anyhow. What does matter is how funny Illegal Smile is. Certainly got a chuckle about Prine waking up tired in the lyrics, noting that a bowl of oatmeal tried to stare me down and won. When I first listened to this album, this funny song caught me off guard for the heartfelt, emotional lyrics to come in the other songs. More on that later, but first let me give you a little background on Prine. He grew up in Maywood, Illinois, outside of Chicago, in a Midwestern blue-collar household. His grandfather worked in construction, and his father was a steelworkers union president at one point. He enjoyed reading Steinbeck. I learned this from this following book. It's written by Aaron Osman. It's part of the 33 1/3 series on albums. And in it, she relates that the connection between the roving laborers of Mice and Men and Prine's grandfather Empson is plain. And the tragedy of Steinbeck's working man tales appeared throughout the album John Prine. Sam Stone and the dispirited characters of the Grapes of Wrath are fingers of the same glove, though Prine never read that book. Quoting Prine, she says, or he said, I read just about everything except the Grapes of Wrath because I liked the movie so much, I didn't think the book could be better than the movie. So I'm tempted to go through each song in this album and marvel at the craftsmanship and poetry present, but I'll simply implore you to listen to this album, whether it's your first or 50th time. Give it a listen, give it a re-listen. It's healing, it's heartbreaking, it's funny. It is just a classic, and like Mingus's record, every time I listen to it, I like it more and more. So, that being said, I would like to discuss my favorite song on this album a little more, Angel from Montgomery. It opens with an organ bringing us into a woman's lament about a life perhaps not worth living. I'm going to have to recite these lyrics, hoping to get through them without choking up. I tend to get misty whenever I hear the song, but hopefully I can read the lyrics without it getting a little dusty in here. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. Angel from Montgomery. I am an old woman named after my mother. My old man is another child who's grown old. If dreams were lightning and thunder were desire, this old house would have burned down a long time ago. Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to believe in this living is just a hard way to go. When I was a young girl, well, I had me a cowboy. He weren't much to look at, just a free rambling man. But that was a long time, and no matter how I tried, the years just flowed by like a broken down dam. Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to believe in this living is just a hard way to go. There's flies in the kitchen. I can hear them, they're buzzing. And I ain't done nothing since I woke up today. How the hell can a person go to work in the morning and come home in the evening and have nothing to say? Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to believe in this living is just a hard way to go. So that's a good place to end, I think. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This has been fun. Why do I feel like Fred Rogers? I wish I'd had his heart. He was a great man too. Anyhow, thanks for visiting my musical neighborhood. See you soon.